Hello, everybody, and welcome to the JH Show. We have a very special guest today. We've talked about him last week, and introducing my coworker. This is Antonio. I wanted to have him on because he and I share a similar story of life in a way.
Yes, we do.
So, how you been?
Good, you?
Good.
Good.
Good. Just
Freezing, huh?
yeah, it's cold. It's fucking cold
Yeah.
out there. Yeah, we work construction together, and it's a lot of fun. We actually have a pour in the morning at 3 a.m.
Yep, that's right.
So we get the podcast out of the way and talk about stuff. I don't even know where to really start. I was trying to think of some questions, but I guess tell me about yourself. Where'd you grow up? How'd you end up in Utah? All that stuff.
Well, I'm from here. I grew up in Rose Park. Yeah, I grew up here my whole life. My family's from here. Everybody I know is from here. Had a kind of a crazy childhood.
Yeah.
A lot of my family are gang members, and my uncles and stuff, and that was kind of how, I'm no longer in a gang, but I used to be. And so that was how I grew up, was with that mentality and all that stuff. And, just made a lot of bad choices as a kid,
Yeah, I know how that is.
Yeah.
I wasn't raised, because that's where we differ, because I wasn't raised gang life, but I was introduced to it and kind of fell in love with the facade of it,
Yep.
and learned very quickly it ain't all it's cracked up to be.
Yeah. Took me a long time to realize, sometimes people know how to speak really well and get you to believe things, and
gain your trust.
Yeah, they paint a really good picture, and especially when you grow up in it, that's what you know, that's what you believe, so you dedicate yourself to that,
Yeah.
You're willing to do anything it takes to be part of it, to be known, to be the big dog, to be the top guy, all that stuff,
Yeah. So for me, my first charge ever. I've never talked about this publicly, but I wanted to for this podcast episode specifically. My first charge ever was aggravated arson. One of the worst charges you could get.
Yeah.
Me and my friends, we were at this old hotel. It was abandoned, but there were a bunch of crackheads living in it and stuff. And we went inside. We were hanging out and started playing with matches. Next thing we know, the carpet's on fire. We don't have anything to put it out with.
Yeah.
So everyone runs out the back except me. I go out the front, and they're across the street's a Chevron with some surveillance cameras.
Yeah.
So I get busted. Prison life, I'm never going back. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, that's good.
Never going back. Because the time I spent in there, I saw some shit I didn't want to see. Had some interesting times in there,
Yeah.
There's, I don't know. It's not a fun place.
Not at all. Yeah, it can change your life, the way you view things. At least you were smart enough to know that you're not going to go back, and you haven't gone back.
Yeah.
Since then. Me, I've had a few setbacks. I've gone back a couple times. Obviously, look at me. I'm a little bit more hard-headed than most people.
Yeah.
It took me a really long time to realize that I needed to change my life and, do different things, and that's what I'm trying to do now. Like I said, I had a few setbacks, but yeah, prison is not fun.
No.
There's a lot of crazy people. I'm sure you've dealt with that, huh?
Yeah. We got a lot of stories about that, but what were you charged? What was your first crime, I guess, ever?
So I got sent to prison for obstruction of justice, but it was for a shooting. I was in Rose Park. Me and one of my friends were walking to the store, actually, and a carload of these guys from another gang rolled up, and before they could get out of the car, I started shooting the car.
Yeah.
And they actually couldn't prove that I was the shooter. They didn't know if I was the shooter or if my friend was. Neither one of us said anything. So all they charged me with was obstruction of justice and discharge of firearm. And that was what I was sent to prison for my first time.
Damn.
Yeah.
And how long did you stay for that sentence?
I did a year a year for that, and I was released on parole, and then I was out for a few months, and then I violated my parole and went back.
Yeah.
And when I went back, they threw me on, and I was in Draper. I was housed in Draper, but they threw me on this housing unit. It's called Baker Block.
Mm.
There was a lot of gang members from different gangs on that unit, and it was there was 3 tiers. The way it was housed was 3 tiers, and I was on the first tier. There was a lot of rival gang members that were mixed, but I mean at that time, everybody kind of lived around each other and dealt with each other, you know. And
Yeah.
Still kind of respected each other's boundaries, and yeah, I was crazy time, you know. I ended up getting into an incident that caused me to stay in there for
A little longer.
quite a bit more time, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, because growing up, I was raised religious, so
Yeah.
I was never around any of the gang life. And then when I fucked up and went to prison, I got to see a whole nother side of life, the inside.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready because I was 18. I was a kid,
Yeah.
just barely. I don't consider an adult till they're at least 21. For me, like personally, I think you're technically an adult at 18, but until you're 21, you haven't lived enough life really to understand everything, you know.
Yeah.
And so me being that young, you know, I had it easier because I think most guys in there, you know, when a young guy comes in like that, they're depending on the prison obviously, but where I was, it was they didn't treat me very bad because I tried to get along with everybody, and
Yeah.
that was very important. The way I was raised was like, get along with everybody. You don't want to make enemies.
Yeah.
And I knew that going in. I was like, I don't want to piss anybody off.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of people in there that are, you know, they have nothing to lose. You know, they're gonna spend their life in there, so it's best to just, you know, be on everybody's good side.
Yeah, there was one time where I almost got into an altercation. There was this a sack that was in the same pod as us, and his name was Big Mike because he didn't give a fuck. He was one of those guys that just didn't give a fuck, and I think the sacks are a lot like that. They just don't care, and so he could. The reason he's called Big Mike is he walk out of the shower naked, just fucking hanging his dick out. Yeah. Biggest dick I have ever seen to this day. All right. I mean, he didn't care. He'd walk around.
That's why you're Big Mike.
Yeah. And he would always like joke around. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna put it in soft and watch your hips break as I get hard. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Oh yeah, that's all that.
But I mean, there was always shit talk like that, you know. So, but the best thing I did was just try to ignore it. But Big Mike got into an incident with me because I was sitting on my bunk. He was trying to mess with me, just mess around. Those guys have such quick tempers.
Yeah.
Like, out of everybody in there, the white boys have the worst fucking tempers.
Yep.
And so he comes over, he's trying to mess with me. I can't remember what he's saying. But I was reading a book, and I was like, hey, you know, I'm just reading. Can you leave me alone? He's like, oh, fuck you, man. I was trying to have fun. He walks away, and then he comes back. He gets in my face. He's like, you want to fucking go? You want to fucking go right now? I'll take you in the fucking shower. And he's screaming. And I'm just sitting there, like, taking this all in. Like, am I going to get fucked up right now?
Yeah.
You know? Because I've seen that happen. Some dude's just chilling on the bunk, and then, you know, they fucking
run in and start beating his
the
ass.
shit out of him. 3 or 4 guys.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do. You just fucking...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, the first time I ever had an incident with, you know, a SAC member was it was actually my first time in prison. 2012, I was an R&O, you know, which is, you know, when you first go in and you sit there with all the new guys for however many weeks until they assess you to figure out where they want to house you at. Anyway, so I was there, and they take me to another building which is called A West, and that was like one of the places you see on like an old prison movie, you know, where they have the bars and you know, the doors they open, they roll open doors, you know, stuff like that. I remember being there and I was like, wow, this is just like the movies, you know. And as soon as I remember before I came out for rec for my time out, they had these guys that were like section workers, and there was 4 tiers, so there were like 4. It was 4 levels high, and they would go all around up and down each tier, and they'd ask everybody if they needed stuff passed or whatever. They'd come ask all the new guys, "Hey, what's your name? Where are you from?" And remember these guys from SAC came up, and they're like, "Hey, man, what's your name?" And I tell them my name, and like, "Where are you from?" And at the time, I was at Northaniel, and I'm like, "Oh, this is what gang I'm from, Northaniel." And they're like, "Oh, all right." One guy was like, "Hey, man, just so you know, there's a lot of Sureños on this tier. You better watch your back." And I was like, "All right." And I knew right when he said it, I was like, "Oh man, he's gonna go tell him I'm gonna get jumped or stabbed." And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Doors open, and it was crazy because you that you were gonna come out because you'd see they had these red lights up on the ceiling right above the doors, like all the way down the tier, and those would start spinning and flashing, kind of
for
like
the doors,
kind of like a cop
yeah.
light, and that's how you knew like, oh, the doors are about to open.
Yeah.
And they'd open, they'd roll open, and then I come out and I'm looking around and I'm like, oh man, I'm about to get jumped, man. I'm looking around, start walking down the tier. Next thing I know, 4 guys come out of a cell and surround me, and I'm like, what the hell's going on, man?
Yeah.
And I was nervous. I was like, oh shit, here we go. And they're trying to tell me I couldn't live there, And I was like, you're not going to tell me where I can and can't live,
Right.
Because one thing I was always taught by my uncles was, it doesn't matter. You go to prison, don't be a bitch.
Yeah.
Because if people see that you're scared and you're afraid, and they can, then they're going to take advantage of you. They're going to start bullying you. They're going to try to take your stuff. And so they're like, if you get beat up, oh well, deal with it. Get your ass kicked and keep on moving. I was like, all right. But at least they'll respect you. So I told them, hey man, you're not going to tell me where I can and can't live. I'm not going anywhere. Next thing I know, one pulled out a knife, tried to stab me, and we started fighting. He didn't stab me. He cut me once in my face. It was just a little scratch, like a little cut. It was bleeding a little bit. I don't even have a scar from it, but we started fighting. And we were fighting, I don't know, maybe like a minute, and then the cops came up and started macing all of us,
Yeah.
Yeah. And but yeah, I remember one of them, there was 3 Sureños, and one of them was from SAC. And after a minute, the 3 Southsiders, they stepped back, and then me and the guy from SAC just started fighting. And
one-on-one.
Yeah, just one-on-one. We just started fighting one-on-one, But yeah, it was a
learning lesson.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this prison is real.
This is how it is.
This stuff really happens in prison. Holy hell.
Yeah, I saw a lot, but I was not involved, and I tried to not be. I was a good boy. Because I tried to get along with everybody because I don't want to be involved in that.
Yeah.
It wasn't till later where I really fucked up and got involved in the gang shit. Because I was part of a biker gang here in the state. And I thought, I always wanted to ride a motorcycle, and I started riding in like 2017. I got my first motorcycle, started riding around. Then I moved to the city, and I got involved with the club here. And I loved it. It was so much fun. It was like that unity, that gang mentality of, I've got your back. If anything goes down, we're here with you. We're all kind of one unit. And it was so much fun. I had a blast. We traveled all over the country. We went to Sturgis. We went to the motorcycle rallies, and we met so many cool people. But there were times where there were a couple gun shootouts. There were a couple moments where it's like, this is not for me. I don't want to fucking die on a bike,
Yeah.
Or just die with the club. And that gang mentality, as soon as I was out, I realized that when you're with them, you think you're invincible.
Yeah.
You're invincible. You're unstoppable with everybody with you. And then once you're out, it's gone. And it kind of clears your mind. You're like, oh shit, I could die. Just one wrong word, they get pissed off. I'm dead.
Yeah.
And that really kind of cleared things up for me, because I was like, I sold my bike. I got out of the club. I haven't talked to anybody since.
Yeah, that's good.
Because I know the ramifications for, even talking to them now. But
one thing for me, I see what you're saying, because for me it was a little different because I had kind of grown up and experiencing violent situations and things happening, and so over a period of time it was kind of like it became the norm,
Yeah.
But as far as what, it took me a long time to realize, that I'd sat there in prison, and I'd look around and I'd be like, man, a lot of these guys, I don't even know them to be able to say I hate them, or to say I don't like them or I don't even know them, you know. And,
Right.
But every time the cops, because they there's some dirty cops, you know.
Oh yeah.
Not all
Oh,
of them,
yeah.
you know. There's
Not all of
there's
them.
some good guys out there too
Yeah.
that are police officers or corrections officers and stuff. But a lot of them, especially in the prison, a lot of them
Especially.
are pretty dirty, you know. And there's times where they pop cell doors open of rivals just to have some fun, just to watch.
Yeah. They would
watch them
put
see-
bets on it.
Yeah, they
They
bet.
put bet on it.
I remember one officer one time told me he's like they popped the doors and we came, got it. I got the upper hand in the fight, and he told me later when they had me in the holding cell, came by, he was like, "You son of a bitch, you cost me $100," you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What the fuck," you know? I was
Yeah.
like, and he just walked off, and I was like, "Holy shit,"
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, I came to realize that I didn't hate any of them, and I'm like, man, I'm over here and I put myself in this position to have to fight other individuals that I don't even know. I don't even know these people.
Yeah.
Can't say I hate them because I don't know them, you know, and whether I want to or not, now it becomes like, oh, if you don't get them, they're going to get you.
Right.
So you have to do what you have to do to survive. You
Dog
know?
eat dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty brutal. There were a lot. There were 3 riots I saw. There was one incident. Most of the riots, everything's just a mess of people, you know. So you don't get to see everything. It's just a bunch of fighting.
Yeah.
The most brutal thing I saw in there was over an orange, a fucking orange.
Yep.
It was just after breakfast. Breakfast is at 6.
Yep.
And we just finished eating breakfast. We had oranges and like pound cake and something simple. And we were just got done cleaning up, and there was an orange left on the table. And one of the Hispanic guys had left his orange there. And I can't remember if he did it on purpose or what. But one of the sacks came over and took it and just ate it. And he's sitting at the table eating it. And the Hispanics came over. He's like, "Where the fuck did my orange go?"
Yeah.
"It was right here. I left it on the table just after breakfast. Did you eat it, motherfucker?" And then they start yelling. And that fucking Hispanic dude grabbed it's a square table. I don't know why they had a square. Make them round. What are you doing? Square table. Takes the dude's head. Fucking bashes his fucking corner of his skull into the corner of the table. Split the whole side of his head open. Blood all over the table. And I was like,
Ooh.
holy fuck. Over a fucking orange?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. People will fight over the stupidest things in there, you know.
What's the dumbest thing you've seen in there that someone's like?
Milk.
Milk.
Yeah.
Milk, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it was funny, man. So these guys, I guess they had a deal worked out for some milks. One guy was trying to buy the other guy's milks for the month or whatever, and one day the guy, it's early in the morning. I mean, I could see. He said he drank the milk, and then later he was like, "Oh crap, holy shit, man!" Hey, the dude's like, "Hey, where's my fucking milk?" And he was like, "Oh shit, I forgot. Look, man, I apologize. I drank it. I'll pay you an extra one later." The dude was like, "No, man, fuck that. I want my milk now, you fucking bitch." And he was like, "Well, hey, man, you ain't gonna talk to me like that." And
Yeah,
once
then
you
it
call somebody a
escalated.
bitch,
Yeah,
it just
once the
escalated.
bitch word comes out.
And the dude, he was like, later he told me, he was like, "Yeah, man, I really forgot. It's early in the morning. I was still half asleep."
Yeah.
And, and I was like, "Yeah, I could see a mistake like that happening." But, some people, they just don't care. They'll push it to they'll blow things out of proportion, and, they feel some type of way. I guess it makes sense, when you're stuck in a place where you don't want to be, and all you have is time to sit there and overthink things, and then you get in your head and you start to,
Oh yeah.
because
I mean,
emotions, and you know what I mean.
A lot of times, all you have to do in there is think.
Yeah.
For most of
That's
the
it,
time
yeah.
you're in there, is all you're doing is thinking.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I've seen a lot of riots. I've actually been involved in a few riots myself,
Yeah.
and crap, man. So maybe one day I'll have to come back and show you the video from my last riot, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. That'd
The
be
last riot I was
crazy.
involved in. It's, but yeah, it's pretty crazy, man. The last one, the first riot I had been in was for. Did you ever hear of the A and B thing that they had going on out there in the prison, where they had the two gangs, the Norteños and the Sureños? They had them
separated into A and B groups.
Yeah,
I'd heard about it.
The first riot I had been involved in was because of that.
Oh really?
Yeah, it started that. I mean, excuse me.
Okay.
So
The separation of them.
yeah,
Okay.
the reason that started was there was an individual over there named what was his name? No, what was his name? Evil. His name was Evil. He was a Southsider. I guess he's no longer with them anymore or whatever, you know. But his name was Evil, and I guess this one guy, he was in a drug program with this other guy, and the guy said he was norteño, and he owed Evil money for something. I guess whatever deal they had worked out. And Evil ended up getting moved to our unit. He completed that drug program. They moved him over to our unit, and he started asking us about it. And we're like, we don't know nothing about it, you know, but we'll find out if he owes you, and it comes back that he owes you, then yeah, we'll pay it, you know. So we ask around, find out. Comes to find out, this guy was no good, you know. So we go tell him, hey man, sorry. Yeah, if he owes you, we apologize, but he's no longer with us. He hasn't been with us for a while. He's no good. So when you see him, handle that yourself, you know.
Yeah.
We apologize, whatever, and he keeps trying to press us about it. We keep telling him, hey man, we already told you once. So there was that, and then also too, one day, one of my boys, his name's Psycho, right? He drew an N on a beanie. You know how they give you the orange, orange beanies off commissary? He drew a N on the letter, a big old block N on the beanie. And he was walking around the section wearing it. And then they come and they're like, hey man, we feel disrespected for you wearing that. Take that off. And we're like, what man, you tripping? You ain't gonna tell us what we can and can't wear.
Right.
You know, because they have tattoos. They're walking around with tattoos and they have backwards ends on them. And you know, for us, that was disrespectful. Yeah. You know, and we're telling them that same stuff. And, you know, they're like, look at it like this, man. Look what you guys walk around with your tattoos out like that. You know, think it's disrespectful towards us. And anyway, so we let our, the main man know. We sent him a kite, let him know what's going on. And he's like, they try to tell you not to wear that beanie, huh? You know, and he's like, all right. Well, I want you to get at them. You know, they're not going to disrespect us like that, whatever. And that was how it all started, over a beanie, you know?
Over a beanie. Jesus.
And that went on for, I think they had us on the A and B thing for 5 years. Separated for 5 years. And there was a lot of people that were able to do their time and go home, no problem.
Yeah.
Now they don't have it. Now they took it off.
Oh, really?
And it actually, I did about 7 years straight.
Oof.
And so went in for that. And then during that riot, I stabbed 2 people. I ended up getting the 7 years for it.
Yeah.
And then like 3 months before I got, was it 3 months? Let's see. It was about 4 months before I got out in 2020. After 7 years, they took that off. They took the A and B day off, and I was involved in a riot again.
Oh, fuck.
Stabbed another guy. But he broke my hand. You know, we come out. I remember the cops, they come over to our speaker. They're like, there's no longer an A and B schedule. You guys will be wrecking together. And then he repeated it one more time. And then I heard 2 doors pop. You know, the sounds. Because these doors, they swung open. They weren't the sliding doors.
Yeah, the electric ones.
So you hear the lock open up.
Yeah. Did yours buzz? Because ours had like an electric buzz and then open.
No, ours was just, it was those ones. That was in Gunnison. I was actually in Gunnison,
Yeah.
And that's what happened. So we hear that, and I hear it twice. And I just kicked the door open, and me and my cellmate, we ran out. Those two came running at us. We were both on the top tier, and we just started fighting. And I guess the cops told us later, they're like, yeah, I guess we were told to give you guys 15 seconds, let you fight for 15 seconds. And I swear that 15 seconds seemed like an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, and it does. They're talking about dirty cops. We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand that. I never really liked cops to begin with growing up. But when I was inside, I was like, we had these small windows we could see out of. Yeah. And I noticed the officer that brought me in was actually, he actually ended up marrying my cousin. Yeah. So it's really awkward during family reunions.
I can bet.
So just because I'm looking out this window, and I'd never seen like corruption like this before. So they bring this guy in who's like had a ton of these, pound bags of weed in his car. He was transporting. Yeah. They bring him in, and the trucks pull around back, and I watched 2 of these trucks pull out back, and we're just kind of watching through this little slit. Yeah. I'm like, what's going on there? I see him hand over like a bunch of cash. And then they hand over the fucking drugs in his personal vehicle. All the fucking weed goes in his personal vehicle.
Oh, wow.
And he drove home. I was like, what Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah,
I was
that's-
blown away by it. I was like, I didn't think this actually happened. But
Yeah, no, yeah, it happens
Yeah.
more than you think. It's crazy, man. I remember, when I was young too, I experienced stuff like that. One of my friends, when I was young, he was older than me. He was at least 10 years older than me. So, you know, I used to look up to him, and but he used to be like a really big drug dealer out here in Salt Lake, you know, and he always had a lot of girls, a lot of money, a lot of cars, a lot of jewelry, all that stuff, you know.
yeah,
That was stuff that I had always wanted and stuff, and I think that was one of the reasons why I used to look up to him. But I remember one night I was with him and we get pulled over, and it was actually gang unit that stopped us,
oh,
pulled us over. It's just one car. They were undercovers, you know. They walk up and, you know, you couldn't even tell it was an unmarked car. And dude gets out, but he has his badge out over his shirt, you know, and you can tell he's wearing a vest and stuff, a bulletproof vest. And anyways, and calls my boy by his last name. He's like, "Get out the car, man." And he like, "What?" And then he's like, "Who you with?" And he looks, trying to light in my face. He's like, "Who's this little guy?" You know, I don't think who's this youngster? I don't think I recognize him. Anyways, and then so we get out the car. I'm like, "What the hell?" They start searching the car, and they're over here. One cop's searching the car, the other one's asking my boy questions and stuff, you know. And they got me cuffed, sitting on the curb. They have my friend. They have him leaning against the back of the car, and he's talking to him. And then you know, they find something, find some type of drugs in the car, and whatever. And then they search him, and he has a wad of cash. They pull it out,
oh god,
and they're like, "Look, man, we're gonna take your shit. We're gonna let you go. I don't feel like doing paperwork." And I was like, "What the hell?" And I'm sitting there tripping, and I'm like, "Is this really happening?" You know?
yeah,
And they just took all his money, and they took the drugs they found, and they just fucking
left.
And I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah,
And he told me, he's like, "I don't be surprised. It happens to me more than you would think."
that's crazy.
I was like, "What the hell? I wonder if he's a cop too or something," you know? But oh yeah, they do. I mean, you know, they have bills to pay just like anybody else.
That's
And
true.
why have to go through the hassle of filling out a report or anything when you could just be like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
A
as
drug
well,
dealer
it's
gonna-
an undercover too.
Yeah, is
you
a
know?
drug dealer? He's not gonna call the police department and be like, "Hey, 2 of your officers robbed me for my money and drugs." You know, like,
Right. Yeah.
he's just happy to not go to jail. You know, so
Yeah. My biggest problem, so with my old car before I got my DUI,
yeah,
was it was gray and white. And I got profiled a lot. Like being in a two-tone car that looks like a Hispanic vehicle, and I'm dark-skinned as it is, so it's like, all right, well, I got profiled at least 4 times I can think of here in the city.
Yeah.
Just from driving around. I'd get pulled over just because of the look of the car. I hate that shit. That's so annoying.
no, yeah, I completely agree with you, man. It's frustrating. I used to get pulled over all the time, but it was. I mean, so I used to have this ponytail, and it was like a kind of like a Mongolian haircut,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But it was really long braid, and that was kind of one of like the symbols, I guess that a lot of people were able to recognize North Daniels from, was because that's one of the things they use to identify themselves. They'll grow their hair out like that. And, but I used to have one of those, and so I remember one time I was driving. I was actually in the back seat, and gang unit, I guess, saw my hair. They told me later, they're like, "Oh man, I seen your haircut," and we just started following you. We were like, "Oh yep, he's one." You know, like, you had a red sweater on and you got that haircut. Yep. So we started following you. Waited for the driver to make a mistake, pulled you guys over, and I was like, "Wow." And
So-
I mean, I didn't have anything. Nobody had anything, but still,
Yeah.
you know, it just.
It's dumb.
Yeah.
Like, why? I don't understand. Profiling it's annoying because it just ruined like a regular person. And that's the other thing. Like, being a felon is one of the hardest things I've ever gone. I'm still going through right now. You know,
Yeah.
trying to find a place to live. People's interpretation of you. You know, like on a resume. They don't take you for face value. They just see that label. You know.
Yeah, that's kind of like, you know, one of the things I deal with every day. You know, whether I go to the grocery store or
Yeah.
wherever I'm at, like I could be at the park with my kids or whatever, and people just look at me and they stare. And I guess it's because I'm covered in tattoos.
Yeah, you're
my
covered
whole
in
body
tats.
from head to toe, I'm covered in tattoos. So they're like, but I get stares, and I'm like, I mean, I guess I could see it's, you know, for some people it's that aren't used to seeing things like that,
Yeah.
they get intimidated or.
Well, especially in Utah. Like,
No, yeah,
especially in
oh,
Utah,
yeah.
dude. Holy shit.
But yeah, it's it's funny. Like I was actually at Target last night with my wife, and as soon as I walked in, one of those workers there, he was walking towards the front door, and he just saw me, and he just stopped and just stared at me as I was walking by the whole time, and his eyes were big, and he was just staring at me go by the whole time, and I started laughing. And I was telling my wife, I was like, "Did you see that fucking guy?" She was fucking laughing too, and yeah, it's crazy. Just, I mean, I never expected to get this many tattoos, but
Right.
Once you're sitting in a cell, 24 hours a day, 23 hours a day, nothing to do.
else to do.
You're on lockdown. You don't have, you're not allowed to have a TV. Most you can get is order is a radio,
Yeah.
and you have nothing else to do. You're bored. I mean, you find things to do. I learned how to sew. I learned how to draw. I learned how to tattoo a little bit and stuff like that. But
That looks familiar.
yeah, oh, you still have it, huh? MP3 player, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. That's the one I got inside.
Oh shit!
But
I can't believe you still have that.
I keep it as a keepsake. It's fun.
Yeah, hell yeah, that's
Little
cool.
radio player. But this saved me so much time in there. Like, I just listened to the radio and talk shows and sports, and this was a godsend. It was such a simple thing.
Yeah,
But it was so nice to have. Because I could just put in music, block everybody out. I didn't care if someone was getting their face bashed in. I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Put these in real quick.
Yeah, hell yeah. I mean, you got to find the little things in there that'll help you get through it.
I still got power.
Oh shit! Does it really?
Yeah, it's still got power.
Oh yeah.
That's fun. But yeah, I learned a good lesson in there. I met a couple dudes. My cousin was in there with me too, so he was in the same block as me. So it was I had someone I knew. That was another thing that helped me in there a lot, was having somebody that I knew in there.
Yeah.
Was so, like, I don't know what I would have done if I didn't know a single person.
Yeah.
How would I have handled it? But I was like, oh shit, Justice, hey buddy, like, how you doing, man?
Yeah, it's always nice when you. I mean, it sucks seeing them.
Yeah,
Seeing them in there, but I mean, it does help the time go a little bit smoother. When there's people that you know, or what I mean, stuff like that.
So I still keep it. Do you ever keep in contact with anybody that you met?
No. I mean, I have. I used to, but now, like I said, now I'm trying to change myself.
Yeah.
So. And I mean, I tried it last year. I got out and I tried to, maybe I could talk to one or two people, and then they'd get out of prison, and they just start showing up to my house with beer and like late at night.
Yeah.
Hey, bro, let's drink. And I'm like, fuck, man, I got to work in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh, come on, bro, let's drink, man. Come on, I drove all the way out here just kick it with you. And I'm like, all right, fuck it.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, they're like, hey, let's do some coke, or hey, let's do this, or do that. And
I got work in the morning.
And and then I'm like, all right, fuck it, let's do it.
Yeah.
And so I realized, I got to cut those kind of people out of my life. And, I mean, it sucks. But at the same time, I'm doing a lot better,
Yeah.
It's cool, I get to spend more time with my family, less fights with my wife,
That's good. That's always good.
So, I mean, I just try to think about what type of decisions I'm making now and try not to base it off of, oh, that's my friend, I don't want to hurt his feelings,
Right.
Got to let it go,
Yeah. Yeah, I've learned a lot. I'm still learning a lot. I fucked up this year and got a DUI, but I got off really easy with that. I still have my license. I was surprised they didn't suspend it.
Yeah, that's good.
So that was a blessing, but I lost the car, so that's unfortunate. But we're saving money for a new one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy how life can change, And I moved to the city because back in my hometown, once you get tatted up and earrings and all of that, down in like where all the Mormons are, it's very religious. You just looked at like a parasite, if you will, oh, that's bad. Don't even talk to him,
Yeah, they don't want nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I could see. I mean, because I'm sure the town you're from, it's small, like
Small
the town
town.
of Gunnison, right?
Everybody knows everybody, so The hardest thing I think I went to my best friend's house after I got out, and I went to talk to him because before, like when we were in high school and stuff, I kind of treated him like a piece of shit. Like I was really a piece of shit to him.
Yeah.
So I made a bucket list of all these things I wanted to do when I got out, and I still have it. But one of those things was go apologize to everybody you have ever offended or pissed off. And I started down the list, got to my best friend's place, and his dad. I got into the driveway, and before I could go up to the door, his dad opened the door, stepped out front, and was like, "Get out of here. We don't want you on our property."
Wow.
And I was like, "Really?"
Didn't even make it to the door, huh?
Didn't even make it to the door. He's like, "Get out of here.
Shit.
I don't want you on our property." And I was like, "Wow." Like I had just been out maybe a week, and that's how you treat me? Like I'm coming to apologize to your son for being a piece of shit to him. This is how you treat me. I was like, wow.
I think that they just look at it more of like, oh, he's been to prison, he's evil, he's a monster.
Yeah.
Instead of taking a second to realize, like, you know what, people make mistakes.
People make mistakes.
Whether, and me, I've made a lot of mistakes, a lot of bad ones. And there's no excuse for them.
Yeah.
I don't blame anybody but myself, But, I mean, it took me a long time to realize, but, like I said, people make mistakes, things happen. You can't go around saying, oh, he's a monster just because he's been to prison, or he's evil, he's going to corrupt my kids. And, if he's trying to take the time to apologize, somebody's trying to take the time to apologize,
Yeah.
I mean, what does it say about their character, At least they're trying,
Anyway, I've like a year later, we were at an event, my friend and I were actually at a thing together the church was putting on, and I ended up apologizing to him there, and he's like, I appreciate that you apologized to me. It'll take a while for me to accept it, but I do appreciate that you took the effort, and so that eased my situation a little better. Because when I have something on my mind like that just won't go away, like loose end, right? A loose end like that.
Yeah.
That drives me crazy. I can't think. I'm just like, I need to take care of this before anything else. And so that, and I've cleared up the past, that's what I set out to do, is just, everybody I had offended, I wanted to make sure that I had apologized, and I had done so. I think the hardest one was my parents, though. That was the hardest. Cause,
I bet, yeah.
Because being raised religious, being good all through high school, it wasn't until my senior year where I started smoking weed, started hanging out with friends, drinking, and all of that, and then it just went from there. But like you said, it's just a mistake, and it wasn't until later where I realized that, I was really stupid.
Sometimes, some of us have to learn the hard way, and it sucks, but I mean, eventually, for me, a lot of people were smarter than me. They dropped out of the gang faster, or they changed their life or whatever really fast. Me, I was so hard-headed. I was determined to be like, nah, I'll be all right. I can do both.
Yeah.
I can live a normal life and be in a gang. And
that's what
it doesn't work.
Does not work.
You can't be on the fence. You got to choose a side. And
well, it's like a whole other family. You become part of a different family, and all your time is dedicated to that thing.
Yep. That was the thing. One of the things too with that they try to beat into your head is we come first before anything. And they say they have your back and this and that. Call each other brother.
Yep.
But the very fucking first chance they get, they're gonna
fuck you over,
stab you in the back, talk shit behind your back.
Oh, yeah.
When you confront them, what are they gonna do? I didn't say that. It wasn't me. And it's just ridiculous how fucking scandalous some people can be. They're snakes. And it's just, they want to use you for something. They see that you have a family that loves you, and what can we get out of him? What can we get him to do? Let's make him feel good, and talk all this stuff to him to make him feel good, or make him feel like he's gonna be. Oh, we're gonna give you a leadership position. Just to make you feel good.
We'll give you girls and drugs and all of this and parties, and it's great.
Yeah,
but you gotta go kill this guy on Thursday. He's scheduled.
It's just ridiculous how they are. How they can be, and how selfish they are. You know.
Yeah.
They want you to. I gave up so many years of my son's time with my son to because I wanted to prove myself to them.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean now me and my son are starting to build a relationship, but the past 2 years it's been really hard. He most of the time didn't even want to see me, or he always have attitude, or I pick him up and then an hour later he's like, hey, you know what, just take me home. I don't want to be here with you. And I'm like, what the hell? And I can't blame him. I mean, I kicked him and his mom to the curb just to be with my friends, just to be with the gang, just to try to prove to them that I was my loyalty, and to try to prove that I would do whatever it took. And you know what I mean? And
yeah, it's it is all or nothing with the gang. And the night I got out of the club was not a great night because we were guns and alcohol should never be mixed. For anyone listening, if you have guns and alcohol, do not put them together.
That's why it's illegal.
Yeah. We were at a party. I got invited one week. I was at home. I should have never gone to that party. I was at the party. I drive up north. We were hanging out. There were a couple clubs there. And it's always an awkward thing when another club is there, kind of like another gang hanging out with you. It's kind of like they're not family. It's it's a little weird. So we're partying, we're getting drunk, and I fucked up, and there was this girl there, and I don't know why, because I'm blackout drunk at this point. I am fucked up. I planned on spending the night on the couch actually at my buddy Steve's. And I'm sitting on the bench, just sitting there with beer. And Steve comes over. He's like, "Hey, man, what do you think? What do you think of the party? We're chilling." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all right." And he said something about the girl over there. I was like, "Oh yeah, she's cute. I'd date her." And that's all I said. I didn't know it was one of the other club's members' daughter that was way younger than she looked.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
So I got my fucking ass kicked.
Yeah.
There were 6. I won't mention the club just for reasons, but 6 of them versus 4 of us, and I got the living shit beat out of me. I somehow made it into the front yard. My whole fucking face was busted up. I got on my bike and I drove it a couple blocks, nearly fell over because the adrenaline started to wear off at that point. It's cold, and I drive down, I park the bike, I'm shaking, bleeding, and my club president called me. He's like, "Where the fuck are you?" He's like, "I heard what happened. Where the fuck are you?" And I was like, "I just drove the bike a couple blocks, and I'm going to have my friend come pick me up and drive the bike home for me." He's like, "All right, well, you're fucking out. You're done." I'm like, "Okay, well, that's fine by me." Because if I'm blackout drunk and I say something stupid and get my fucking ass handed to, beat the shit out of, that's fine by me. I don't want to be anywhere near this shit. And sold the bike and got out of the club, and I am very glad that didn't end worse than it could have, so. But that was, and after, like I was saying, after I got out, I realized, holy shit, I thought I was invincible. I thought I couldn't be touched by cops, anybody. Not even my own family could touch me. I was a untouchable part of the club, and that mentality after I got out, I was like, wow, it cleared up for me. I was like, I was a fucking dumbass. Holy shit. One of my best friends is still in the club, and I'm like, you need to get out, man. Don't waste your time. I love riding motorcycles, but do not do that because there's drug running, there's gang fights. There were 3 gang fights that I was a part of, and it's just not worth it.
It's crazy.
We went to 2 funerals that were one was in Montana. They had a fight up there that we weren't a part of, but we lost a brother because of it. And then we had one here that we lost a brother because of it. And it's just not worth it. And I'm so glad I'm out. But it's an interesting thing, having you here talking about the stories.
Yeah, it's crazy. Man, that reminds me of, you say you getting jumped, man. One riot I was involved in too. Actually, I got my ass kicked, but me and he was actually my cellmate. We were walking down to the to education, Gunnison.
Yeah.
There's two buildings.
Yeah, they're
We were-
separate.
Yeah, we were up in the north building. We were walking down for movement. We had to go take a test. I guess we had barely got out of max, both of us. We had only been there maybe 2 weeks. It was about 2 weeks. Both had just got out of max, and then they're like, "Hey, the officers from the housing unit, they come. They're like, hey, just so you guys know, if you guys want to advance for your levels, which levels you get more phone calls, more timeout, stuff like that. They're like, you have to go and take a test down in the education building. It's like a tape test, I guess, just so they check your scores and see whatever kind of education you need if you're not a graduate.
Right.
Neither one of us were high school graduates at the time, so we're like, shit, I guess we have to do it. So we go down. A couple days later, we go down. When we go down, there was a rival gang there, and it was the Ogden Treses. They're not, it's weird because they're not Southsiders, but they claim the 13 like the Southsiders. But anyways, the Norteños don't get along with them. Anyway, so we go down. We're in the hallway, and we see some people we know. We start talking to them, saying what's up, chopping up, and during movement, there's just hundreds of people just crowding the hallways, walking around. And anyways, then my cellmate, he's like, hey, man, look. He's like, I think that's one of them right there. I don't want to say their names and stuff.
Right.
And I look, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that is that dude. And he was like, come on. And so we start walking towards him. And then we start to realize there's more and more of them. And I'm like, holy shit. And at first, I counted about 5 of them. And I was like, oh, shit. And they walk up. The dude walks up, and he was like, what's up, man, to my cellmate. My cellmate just punched him in the mouth.
Fuck.
And then I saw 2 behind him pull out knives. And I jumped towards them and started fighting them and started swinging on them. And we were just getting it. Next thing I know, we got separated somehow. He's at one end of the hall getting jumped. And there ended up being 8 of them. He was fighting 4 of them, and I was fighting 4 of them. They had knives. And then I got stabbed about 6 times. A couple times in my back, a couple times on my side, and then 2 times in my arm. And but luckily though, the shanks they had were plastic.
Oh yeah. Those can be bad too, because if they break,
side, it could be bad. But I was just thankful it wasn't metal, especially the one that hit me on my side, because he hit me like right on the ribs, and so I was bleeding, and I was really bad bruising and stuff. But if it was metal, he probably would have punctured my lung or worse, And so I was thankful that it was plastic. But yeah, man, that time I got my ass kicked, and I remember one of the cops that came when they called, the code or whatever for, they're fighting, the sound of the alarm, and everybody got down and stuff, and then you hear the sirens going off in the building.
God, that's annoying.
Finally, we all stop fighting. We get down, and one of the cops that came, he used to work in Max, and he came and he was like, "Oh man, is that you?" And I was like, "Oh, what's up, man?" And he was like, "Holy shit!" He was like, "Did you at least fucking get one?" I was like, "Yeah, I knocked out 2 of them because I did, And he was like, "Oh," he's like, "Fuck, looks like they stabbed you." And I was like, "Yeah, I guess." And I didn't even realize I was stabbed, but I guess I had blood coming through my shirt and stuff. And they took me to medical and patched me up, and then took me to a holding cell, and just like, "Oh well, you're on lockdown.
Yeah,
you're on lockdown until we find out what's going on." I was like, "All right."
Yeah.
But yeah, it's crazy, The thing with that too, like I said, these cops are dirty. It's because they know that those 2 specific groups do not get along, and every time
they'll capitalize on it.
Yeah, for the past, I think it had been about 4 or 5 years at that time. For the past 4 or 5 years, every time those 2 groups had been around each other, they were stabbing each other.
Yeah.
Every time, and still they're just like, have fun, and they just throw you in there.
Brutal.
They're just like, hey, just so you know, you got some friends in there. I'm like, really? They're like, no, have fun. You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy. They know why don't they take any necessary measures to try to
avoid that?
Yeah, avoid anything like that happening.
The prison system is one of the most fucked up things of this country even has, is the justice system.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
It's so fucked. there's so many people in prison that shouldn't be, and there are a lot of people that are in prison that are stuck with the people that shouldn't be, you know, and then you
Yeah.
get that combo and it just never ends well. And it can turn a good person into somebody terrible. When you spend a long time in there, you become somebody else.
Yeah, you know what's crazy too is that you say that that you mentioned that is I've met people that have never done drugs in their life, you know,
Yeah.
and they go to prison, and then when they leave, they're strung out on heroin, strung out on meth,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what the fuck? Why would you do drug? You've never done drugs your whole life. Why would you come in here and develop a habit? You know, it's ridiculous.
Did anyone commit suicide while you were in there?
Yeah, there was a few people.
Yeah, there were like 6 while I was inside. There was some dude, a couple cells down from us. He was on the top bunk, jumped with his, like, he tied socks together.
Yeah.
Fucking jumped, just fucking snapped his neck on the corner of the bed. I was like, that. I don't know. I understand if you were in there for a long time, you couldn't handle it. That mental state is brutal.
Yeah.
You know, just being in there all fucking day, nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hated that. That's why I never want to go back. You
Oh,
can't leave. You can't go anywhere, dude.
Yep.
And it drove me crazy. I was having the worst time in there because all I could do was read books and play dominoes, you know?
Yep.
So, and then you had rec, but I never really went out. I'd play basketball and handball, but I never really went out. I just stay inside and read. I read so many books, and that's how I spent my time. I really didn't do much, but I learned how to play dominoes, and I really enjoyed dominoes.
Yeah, dominoes is a good game. Yep, I like it. Yeah, I've seen I've seen suicides, I've seen murders, I've seen overdoses, I've seen all kinds of shit while I was in there. I remember one time this old man he overdosed. I was in the Okers. This old man fucking, I still can see him, man. It's crazy. I don't mean to laugh, you know, but it's just crazy. But I remember I was sitting at one of the dinner tables. We were eating dinner. I was with a couple of my friends. We were just sitting there, you know, chopping it up, talking and stuff. And the tables we're at they're kind of right next to the shower. And you know, this old man, he's in a wheelchair. He can walk, but he's like old and messed up, so he uses a wheelchair. And he was in the shower, and I remember seeing him get out of the shower, and he's rolling, and his cell was right next to the shower. And he rolls into his cell, and he's like, "Hey, what's up, man?" I was like, "Oh, what's up? How you doing?" Well, man, his name was Penguin. That was what we called him.
Penguin?
Yeah. He was like, "Hey, what's up, man?" I was like, "What's up, Penguin?" And he goes in his cell, you know, and he seemed perfectly fine. And about 20 minutes later, the sergeant comes in, and you know they're handing out indigent supplies to you know, so people they're giving out supplies to people who don't get money. You know, who are broke and
like
stuff. So they're like,
stuff.
here's some soaps,
Yeah.
here's a razor,
Yep.
so they could shave, you know, stuff like that, toothpaste.
Did they take your razors after you were done shaving?
No, it was a general pop, so they let us keep them.
Okay.
You could keep them, but if you wanted new ones, you got to exchange them.
Yeah.
But yeah, he comes in and walks to the old man's cell, you know, because he was indigent. And he goes in there and he was like, I can hear him talking, and I look and I see him shaking him. And then he was like, sticks his fingers to his like nose to see if he's like breathing. If he's breathing, and he's not breathing. And I'm looking at him, and the dude's just like laid out on his chair, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I tell my boy, I'm like, hey man, I think he's dead. And he looks, he's like, what the fuck? And then you know the sergeant gets on his radio and he starts calling for medical, and then he comes out, he's like, everybody rack in now, rack in. And then they start flashing the lights, you know, the control room starts flashing the lights, and that was like a sign for everybody to go in their cell. And so we go in, and medical comes in a couple minutes later, and then they have him out on the tier. And I remember, you know, the bottom of the doors, there's, I don't know, maybe like an 18-inch gap from the bottom of the door to the floor. So I slide my mirror out, and I'm looking. Me and my cellie are laying right there, and we're looking. Like, hey, you see that shit? And they have him on the tier, and they're working on him. And I'm like, holy fuck, I think he's dead, bro. You know, we're just kind of tripping out, you know. We're like, what the hell are we going lockdown for? And we look in, and then medical, you know, you can hear the medical dude. He's trying to give him CPR and stuff, and then finally, after about 10 minutes, they're like, oh man, he's dead, he's gone. And they leave. And they just leave his body butt naked on the tier.
What?
He was laying butt naked on the tier for, they left him out there for about 5 hours on the tier, butt naked. And before they finally came in and put him on a stretcher and took him out, you know?
Wow. 5 hours.
Yeah, it was about 5 hours. I was like, holy shit. I was like, that poor old man.
That's crazy. See, that just goes to show they don't care.
Yeah.
That's what I hated about it, and I hated like we'd go to get our mail, and that the tower, the
Yeah.
central tower, the bubble. We always called it the bubble.
Yeah, the
but
bubble. Yep.
I fucking hated like walking through the hall and seeing that because it just. I always knew they were watching, and they had everything, fucking cameras everywhere. They're always watching. I fucking hated that. I was like, this is just, we're cattle. And it just
Yep.
felt so fucked that whole time.
I remember one time this dude I remember seeing what the hell was his name? I can't remember his name, but he used to be a Norteño, and then he became a Latin King, whatever, later,
Yeah.
right? And so the Norteños wanted to get him for that. Anyways, then I remember he came to Gunnison, and he's talking to the bubble, and he looks over and he sees all of us, and there was like 8 of us in this section, and he was like pointing towards the section. He's like, "Are you sure? You sure?" And I can't see what the bubble's saying, but
Yeah.
and I'm sure they're telling him like, "Yeah, that's your section. Get your ass over there." And he walks towards the door, and he looks, and he goes back to the bubble, and he's like, starts arguing with them, and then he comes back, and he's all pissed off, and he's like, "Shit!" And then comes in the section. So he came in the section, and two of my friends, they approached him, and right away he just took off running, ran back out the section. He didn't even let the door didn't even finish closing. He ran back out, and they chased him out and started fighting him, and that was just like these fucking cops, man. They have it on file that he used to be from this gang.
Yeah.
Now he's from this gang. And
Ah,
usually
just
they
put
try
him
not
in
to,
there.
usually they just try not to mix them, but I guess they're like, well, you're not part of that gang no more, so go ahead, But yeah, he got his ass he got his ass kicked. I was like, holy shit. I remember he got knocked out, and they were just kicking him in the face and jumping on him, and
Yeah.
it was pretty bad, man. I was like, holy shit,
It's a journey, and being, like that. That's why I wanted to have you on, because we've been through similar situations, and a lot of people don't get an insight on it. Like a lot of people don't even know, about a
Yeah.
lot of that.
Yeah.
So, anything else you wanted to add?
No, man, I appreciate you having me on, and it was fun.
Hell yeah, this is great. Well, thanks for being on. Thank you everybody for listening. This was an audio only podcast for safety reasons. But thank you everybody for listening. Please check out the JH Show everywhere you get your podcasts, on YouTube, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks for listening. Have a good one. Bye-bye.